All right, just 1 minute. I just okay. I'm on Facebook now. Okay, fine, great. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again. For those who are just joining on Facebook, apologies for the delay in starting technology. My laptop decided to reboot after just as I was about to go live. All right. Beside you, I'm coming to you. Just 1 minute. Um, can we just, for those of us on Facebook, can we just share the videos and make sure everybody can see and go on? All right, so your babies are twins, so you are not exclusive breastfeeding, no problem. Though you can still exclusive breastfeed your twins, it's possible, it's feasible. But you have not told me exactly what food you're giving your baby and the quantity because that is what, because you said you don't overfeed the baby, but the baby is vomiting after every feed. So I need to know what quantity, what food in particular you're giving. Are you breastfeeding and doing formula feeding? So if you are doing both, what quantity of formula? Because if you're also doing breastfeeding with the formula feeding, you need to know that you can't just feed the baby as if the baby is only on formula. And you also have to be conscious of the time of the interval between the feeds, the weight of your baby, were they preterm babies and all that. So it is my decision to decide whether you're overfeeding your baby or not, and not yours. So I'm not going to just take your word that I'm not overfeeding the baby. You need to tell me objective information, then I will decide if you're overfeeding them or not, based on the weight, based on the quantity you're giving. So that is just and I assume that your other baby uh um is not um is not so besides, can you just put all the question I asked in one comment, because I've asked what quantity, what you are just telling me one by one. It make it easier if you just put everything together. I give my baby 30 minutes of milk every 2 hours, every 3 hours, something like that. And my baby birth weight is this. This is the current weight. That will make my life so easy. All right. So that I will just, if not, each time you put one, I will have to ask another question again. All right. Sorry for Facebook people. I'm sorry we're starting late. My laptop decided to misbehave today of all this. All right. So, but we're going to start now. I've started with Instagram, and I think Instagram people already answering the questions. I'm just sharing the link to our Facebook groups, and then we can start. So if you have questions on Facebook, please drop your questions, and we'll do it as soon as we can go on. If you have question, please drop your question in comments, and then we can answer them. All right, let me see. Busaya has finished answering all the question. Okay, so you're giving 9, you're breastfeeding, you're formula feeding. For formula, I give him 4 scoops. Okay, 4 scoops is how many volume? So usually, 1 scoop goes to 30 mils. So if you're giving 4 scoops, that is 120 mils. Um, you have not told me the weight of your baby on how often you are giving these 4 scoops, but 120 mil of volume of milk is a lot, especially if you're also breastfeeding with it. That's a lot. So you may want to for reduce the volume you're giving. All right. So what I would suggest, depending on how often, if you don't want to if you don't want to do exclusive breastfeeding, so if you are breastfeeding baby A, then you can, and you want somebody else to give formula to baby 2 at that time. So after 3 hours, if they're not preterm babies, you feed them every 3 hours, then you can breastfeed the baby A, and I mean, or you understand the other way around, and then give the other one formula. That way, you can track the quantity you're giving them and the volume, and you are not giving them too much. So, if you're giving a baby milk and baby is always vomiting after every feed, the first thing is to reduce the volume of the feed and see whether the quantity of the feed itself is too much. And if the quantity is too much, reduce it. After you've done that, then if the baby keeps vomiting, and when we say vomiting, you have to differentiate reflux from vomiting. So vomiting means the child is actively retching and bringing out almost all of the milk. As against reflux, where maybe just bring back a little bit of the milk and maybe partially digested milk. That is fine. Most babies will have reflux, so you should keep them upright, rub them, and as they get older, the reflux will reduce. But if the baby is actively vomiting and you have checked that it's not that you're overfeeding them and all that, then you have to take them to the hospital, because there are other conditions that could make a baby to vomit a lot. And so we have something like pyloric stenosis and all that. But you also need to make sure you have to tell us the weight. Is baby gaining weight? Is baby losing weight? So there are lots of information that we need all together to be able to give you a straightforward answer. But just to say that it is not normal for a baby to be vomiting breast milk with every feed, which is the key word. Like every time you breastfeed, every time you give your baby milk, the baby vomits. Then the next question is, does the baby vomit when you breastfeed as well, or is it vomiting only when you give formula? Because that's another question I always want to ask as well. Because if it is only with the formula, then that may also give us some idea as well. So those are all the little bits of information that I need, for example, to be able to narrow down where the problem is coming from. Is it the quantity of the milk is too much? Is there a problem with the baby? Is it the type of milk? Is it breast milk or is it formula? So we need all those information together. So if you are not sure, it may be better to actually sit with a pediatrician who can walk you through all these questions and examine the baby, and then they can now give you advice. But if my first guess be like, if you are breastfeeding and you are still giving 120 mils of milk, that is a lot at a time for each child. That is a lot. So you may want to reduce that, because you will never know how much the baby has taken from the breast before you give the formula on top. So that's that. I hope, Busaya, you are still there. I hope you have not run away. All right, just let me know whether you are okay with the question, with the answer rather. Shifa girl, good evening. Facebook people, I can see all your questions. Let me just take the next question on Instagram and I'll come back to you. Shifa girl say, good evening, doc. My 6-year-old started running temperature headache yesterday. Gave him quarter, running temperature shaking. You have to take the child to the hospital. I'm not sure how you arrive at the diagnosis of malaria from fever and headaches. It's not the best. I know malaria is one of our commonest causes of fever in Nigeria, but that's not the only thing that can cause fever in a child. Okay, so as much as possible, let's not always rush to self-medicate children or treat them. I don't have any problem with you giving paracetamol or even ibuprofen, but don't always rush to treat malaria for every fever. If you've given paracetamol, ibuprofen for 24 hours, the fever is not going, yes, you should take the child to the hospital. Then we can do a baseline question answers, examine the child. We can now do blood tests, even including malaria blood tests. And we have all these rapid malaria blood tests that we can get the test within a few minutes. So we will know if it's malaria or if it is not. So, but since you already started teaching a child for malaria, we won't know, because if you take a test now, the malaria will be negative. But because we already started treating malaria, so you have to complete it. But we have to be sure the child doesn't have more than malaria. And number two, if depending on what the diagnosis, even if the child has malaria, the fact that you started treating the child, give one dose of medication, does not automatically mean the child will be fine, So sometimes it will take a couple of days for the fever itself to resolve. So, Chief girl, I think you will need to take the baby to the hospital. All right. So, yeah, you've only started giving malaria medicine when, how many days? One day? Yeah, yesterday, today. Even if it's malaria, it's not going to disappear quickly like that. So remember that it takes time for the child to start having the malaria. So your one dose of malaria medication is not going to cause the fever to disappear. So you have to complete malaria treatment for 3 days. So, but if we know it's malaria we're treating, then we are more relaxed because we know we're already treating what is causing fever, and then we just wait for it to work. But if we are not sure it's malaria that the child has, and we're giving malaria treatment, we are further delaying the treatment of the real illness. So I hope you understand why it's important that you don't just self-medicate. Because let's say, for example, the child has meningitis, because fever and headache could also be meningitis, and we're only just treating malaria, and we're wasting time day one, day two. We are losing time, and that is becoming more dangerous, which is why I'm not really comfortable with you self-medicating your 6-year-old instead of taking a child to see a doctor, so that we are sure what it is we're treating. If it is malaria, then we are more relaxed and continue anti-malaria treatment. If it's something else, we need to treat it as quickly as possible. So I will be more comfortable if you take the child to the hospital as soon as possible, so that this the underlying cause can be addressed. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so I think I can now go back to Facebook. Apologies again to my Facebook people. Um, I've explained what happened at the beginning. All right, so let's just start. Honey Udoji Chino said, good evening. Good evening. How do I get my 13 weeks baby to sleep well at night? Okay, it's beginning to stress you out. Okay, she sleeps by 9 p.m., wake up by 11, we stay awake. Okay, so when babies are born, your 13 weeks is just 3 months old. Their sleep pattern is different from yours. Okay, so all of us, we tend to be awake during the day and we tend to sleep at night. Okay, but babies are not like that. So most times babies tend to sleep a lot during the day and then they are awake in the night, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it takes time for them to readjust to your own sleep pattern. And what I normally tell mothers, so that you don't get stressed out, is sleep when your baby sleep. So that is what you need to do. You can't force your baby to change its sleep pattern. You can't. Baby will change over time, but you cannot force it. So the best option is, even if you're sleeping during the day, please go and sleep, so that when it is nighttime, you will also be awake. I remember when I was at my first baby, and I remember going through what you're going through now. I was like, wow, I'm never going to sleep in the night again. And that was the thing that eats me most, that I will never sleep again in the night. So, but my mom tell me that that's what it means to be a mother. So eventually, of course, we eventually found our rhythm, and I was sleeping at the night, and all my warfare has gone. So it's a matter of time. So just be patient. Baby will eventually readjust. But at this time, especially when the first 6 months, when they're doing a lot of breastfeeding, I hope you're exclusively breastfeeding anyway, they tend to be awake every 3 hours to feed. They tend to be awake more at night. They tend to sleep more in the day. It's a normal thing. There's nothing wrong with the baby. You are the one that needs to make adjustments for the baby. And with time, the baby will adjust to our own, what we call circadian rhythm, where the baby will sleep during the day and be awake. Sleep during the night and be awake during the day. So there's no magic, honestly. I wish there is, but there is none. You just have to be patient until your baby starts to sleep more at night. All right. I know Chinaza, that's not the answer you want, but that's actually the only thing I can say. All right, Chinaza say, no, not this is not the second Chinaza, the first Chinaza, the one I just answered. The second Chinaza say, please, my baby is 1 year, 2 months. Can I give him Milo, adult milk? Yes, you can. But please, I get these questions a lot, and I'm always like curious why mothers always ask this question. I don't want us to now think, oh, look, yes, they are 1 year old now, they can drink tea and drink milk. And then you want to fill them with tea and all day long. Please don't. They still need to eat food. And tea is not food. It's drink. It's a beverage. It's not food. They shouldn't be taking it more than once a day. So please don't, because some of us get into the other habits. Then the only thing the child wants to drink is tea day and night, and they are going to get malnourished that way. Because I know that mothers are always very fast to ask about, can they take Milo, can they take beverage? Even before age 1 year, they're already asking that question. And then later on, those mothers are also the one that will complain, my baby only wants to drink tea or and doesn't want to eat food. So please don't, we are the one that end up introducing these things to our children, and then we're the one that will also now be complaining later. So be very careful that you don't overload them with beverage. All right, it's okay for them to take it maybe once a day, but definitely not more. Let them drink more of water. They can drink milk itself, and they can drink milk normally. At least they can take up to 500 mils of milk in a day, but not the Milo and all that. It's mostly sugar and a little bit of cocoa. That's what they mix together in all those chocolate beverages. So it's okay to take them, but not like it's what they will take 24/7. And then when the child needs to eat other food that will give them real calories, they don't want to take that. So please, I just always like to put that caveat there. Yes, they can drink milk, they can drink the chocolate beverages, but let's not overload them with it. Let's be very mindful that they are eating other food, eating vegetables, eating their fruits. Those are the ones that they should eat more of, not the drinks. The only thing they can drink a lot of is the water and milk, not any other beverages, including juices and all that. Most of them are what we call empty calories kind of products. So you should have to be very careful about that. All right. So Ani, China said, how do you handle your baby's aspirating speeds and breast milk always? Your baby should not be aspirating breast milk, okay? That is not normal. Okay, your baby can have reflux. So reflux is when they bring back a little bit of the milk, which is normal because I've explained that several times. Their main food is milk. It is liquid diet. The space between the mouth and the stomach is short, and the gates, what we call sphincters, are not as strong. So it's easy for milk to go back, especially when babies are always lying down most of the time. And most of us, when we finish feeding them, we just put them flat. And so it is easy for the milk to go back. And that is why they have a little bit of the milk coming out from their mouth and all that, which we call reflux. So what you need to do, number one, don't put your baby down immediately after feed. Most of us just breastfeed and the next thing, bam, on the bed. No. When you finish breastfeeding, you keep them vertical in an upright posture, maybe on your shoulder, whatever way. You just carry them in an upright posture. Allow that milk to settle. For some babies, 15 minutes, or maybe it may even take up to 30 minutes. Just you rubbing their back, allowing some of the hair to come out, and allowing the milk to settle a bit before you put them down. It does not completely eliminate reflux, but it will reduce it significantly. So please, that is what we need to do. But if your baby is aspirating means the milk is going into the airway. That is what aspiration means. So I really want to be sure that is what you meant, because sometimes parents use some words loosely, and that is not what you actually meant. Because if your child is aspirating, I'm going to be worried. I want that child to go to the hospital, because that means your baby is taking the food or liquid milk through the airway, and they're shocking. That is the definition of aspiration to a pediatrician. So the food coming out from the mouth, even sometimes through the nose, we call it reflux. That is not aspiration. Baby is otherwise fine. Baby is okay, but a little bit of milk will come out. You clean it with your bib. Everybody is happy. But a baby who is aspirating or who is choking on breast milk is having difficulty with breathing, because the food is going into the wrong pipe, going through the hair pipe. That is an emergency. That child has to go to the hospital. And if your baby is doing it a lot, we are worried that, is there something connecting the airway with the foodway? Is that, because there are some abnormalities like that can cause connection between the trachea and the esophagus, and such babies can aspirate a lot, and we really need to know, because it's an emergency. We need to deal with it. So I'm not really sure whether you are just talking about a simple reflux or a child who is really aspirating, who is choking on breast milk. That is the real meaning of aspiration, and that is something that has to go to the hospital. So you can always clarify the one you meant, but I guess you meant reflux all the way. But feel free to update me as we go on. Nwokori, confidence, good evening. Good evening, Rosemary. I'm seeing a lot of people on our Facebook today. Thank you for joining us. I'm coming back Instagram. Nwokori, confidence, good. My 7-month-old is having cancer. It's getting to 2 weeks. What do I do? So usually most cancer, cough, colds, all the names we call them, which they are all, we group them together as what we call acute respiratory infections. They are most of the time due to viruses, and they will go by themselves. We don't need to treat them. They don't need drugs. What we need to do is to prevent them. So we keep our children away from people who have cough and catarrh. We keep them away from fumes, cigarette smoke, firewood smoke, generator fumes, all these perfume sprays, insecticide. Just keep them away from that. Breastfeed them and all that. It will help. But most of the time, their siblings go to school, they come back home, they're coughing, they're sneezing, then they give the baby. So that is how babies tend to have the catarrh. Or some babies go to crèche, they go to daycare. That is where they catch. They are sometimes also we get it from other babies in the crèche. So normally by 2 weeks they should be clearing. So if they persist after 2 weeks, then it's either the child is getting reinfected, like for babies that go to crèche, for example, or it's a chronic condition, like something else is going on, in which case you have to now see the pediatrician. But if it's just catarrh, nothing else, I'll just say watch it for now. Also make sure the child is not having fast breathing, the child is not having fever, the child is not having difficulty with breathing. If the child is having any of those, you have to take the baby to the hospital much earlier. Okay, so it says getting to 2 weeks. So I'll just say just watch it for now. After 2 weeks, if it's not going, take baby to hospital. But more importantly, keep the baby away from the trigger factors, the people, everybody causing it, and make sure your baby is still breastfeeding, your baby is taking fruit and veggies, things that will boost their own immunity to fight all this viral infection. The body just have to fight it. You can't force it to go away, to go by itself. All right. Let us take one more question and then I'll go to Instagram. Good evening, dog. My baby will be 6 months next week. Good. I don't want to give her a formula at all. Good. Or anything called baby food. Good. Can I do only food like a mala rice, seminar? Okay, yes, you can. So I'll just say go to you're in our Facebook group, go to the guide section, look for guide 2, watch all the videos there, read the article. You are good. Your baby doesn't need any formula. Your baby does not need to eat any food from the shops. Every food your baby needs to eat, you have it in your kitchen. And of course, your baby still needs milk, which is your breast milk. That's all. So you are good to go. Well done. All right. Let's just come back to Instagram. Girl. Yeah, you say you also have another 4-year-old. No, not that. My baby's Edra, my baby sometimes stretch himself. Okay, so please always start with the age of your babies. Always start every question with the age of the baby. I need to know the age category I'm dealing with. All right. Stretching. People have this question a lot. My baby is stretching a lot, and I'm always not sure what they meant, because there's nothing wrong with everybody stretching. You stretch your body, don't you? As I'm talking to you, I'm stretching my hands, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes I know parents use words that that's their own way of saying things, but maybe not. That's not really what they meant. So I've learned to probe further when people ask this kind of question. Let me just say, but the only stretching that will worry me is if your baby is convulsing. So if your baby having what look like a convulsion, and I think most of us know what is normal stretching or what is abnormal, but then sometimes first-time mothers are not always sure. So I always say, post a video of the stretching on our Facebook group, and then I will tell you. So I do get a lot of videos, and most of the time the videos are normal. There's nothing wrong with the child, but I think it's easier for me to see the stretching and quickly tell you this is normal than for me to assume it is normal and it is actually something more serious. Because if your child is having like convulsion, for example, I'll be worried. And sometimes convulsion, the way you know the stretching that is not normal is the child is very stiff, the child is not conscious. If you try to stop it, it won't stop. So if your child is having anything that looks weird, abnormal, then you may want to see a doctor. But I would just say get your video phone, record it, post it to us, or show it to your own doctor in the hospital. It's a scenario where 1 minute video is worth more than 1,000 words of description. So once we see it, we know what it is, and then we can easily tell you, don't worry, or yes, there's something going on here. So, and you also start with age of the child. You didn't tell us the age of your child, so I don't even know. I want to assume you're talking about a small baby, but it's better to always tell us the age. Chief Augustine, my 4-year-old daughter opens her mouth while sleeping. She snores a lot. I don't want her. You don't want her adenoid and tonsils removed. Number one, I don't know whether your child's problem is adenoid and tonsils. Have you gotten to the hospital? Have they made those diagnoses, or you just assume? And that is number one. Number two, don't make assumptions. So if your child is snoring, you're worried about it, go to the hospital. Let a doctor examine the child first. Two, if your child has adenoids and tonsils that are big, we don't always do surgery for every child, okay? It is not every child that we operate, all right? So I don't know why you're so scared that your child may have it and not need surgery. That's the point I'm making. Three, if your child needs surgery, your child needs surgery, okay? And you're not wanting it does not mean your child does not need surgery. So, and that's why I tell you, it's not every child that we operate. But for children who really need surgery, they will need the surgery. For example, if your child is having what we call sleep apnea, your child is actually stopping to breathe in the night, the child can die from that. So it's not a matter of I don't want adenoid removed. If the adenoid, they are so big and they are causing obstruction to the child's airway to the point that the child will suddenly stop breathing, it's not a matter of let me assure you that most doctors don't like to operate. Even the surgeons, they don't like to operate children. This is not something that people just enjoy to do. People do it because they just have to do it. We've got to do what we've got to do. So if a doctor tells you that your child needs surgery, your child needs surgery. It's not a fun thing for them. They are not just doing it to make you happy or not happy. It is not a cosmetic surgery. These are life-saving surgery. So if a child is having obstructive apnea, is stopping to breathe, that child will need surgery, whether you like it or not. If a child is having recurrent infections, 6 in a year, in and out, as you're finishing one course of antibiotics, the child is starting another set, the child will need surgery. Most parents that their children have had those surgeries, not because they love to have surgery, they just need to do the surgery because there's no alternative. And for me, I like for you to look at it from a perspective that thank God is something you can do something about. Okay, so if we have a condition that we can do something about, we should be grateful to God. But because there are some conditions that we can't do anything about. So I think that's a way of looking at it. So if I'm your doctor, that's what I'm going to tell you. So look at it from that other perspective. But if your child doesn't need surgery, we will not do surgery. So you don't have to be scared of surgery. I understand why you are scared, because obviously you've had some bad news about children who have had those surgeries and maybe have complications and maybe, bad outcome. But let me tell you, those complications are like the very minority, just like immunization. Maybe 1 out of 1 million children will have a reaction, but 1 million, less than one, have taken that vaccine and they're fine. So does that mean that because of that we should not give immunization because one child out of 1 million children had a bad reaction to it? No, of course not. So that is how doctors think. All right. So Chief Edgar, you don't need to be scared. There is no home remedies for adenoids. There's no home remedy for tonsils enlargements. Luckily, they tend to shrink by themselves. As your baby gets older, they will shrink, but sometimes they don't, and sometimes they are very big and they're causing problems, and the only way is for the ENT doctors to take them out. So I don't know. So, but I would rather say just see a ENT doctor first, and then they can take it from there. Okay, Idra, you say your baby is 2 months. Okay, your baby is not having convulsion. It's okay, nothing to worry about. All right, good. Let's come back to Facebook, people. Okay, Shinaza is ready for me today. So please let me confirm from you. My 13 weeks old gets attracted to TV and wants to watch. The answer is no. A 3 month old baby cannot watch TV. 1 year old baby should not watch TV. It is zero screen time. Your 3 months old baby should play with you. You should look into your eyes. You should play with the baby, talk to the baby, sing to the baby, not TV, please. So screen time, there's a WHO recommendation on screen time for children, all right? And it is zero screen time for babies less than 1 year. It is zero screen time. No TV, no laptop for babies at all, never. So don't even start giving them, all right? So learn to play more with the baby, interact with babies, sing to them, because that is when they are developing their skills. And you are interactive. So when your baby smiles to you, you smile back. When your baby make all those baby sounds, babble it to you, you babble back to them. That is how babies learn. When they look at the TV, they are not getting that feedback, and it's not going to help them to develop. All right. So we want human babies to interact with their parents, develop that relationship, not with the screen. So even when they're about 1 year, 2 years, it is an hour a day. Okay, some of us start to use TV to babysit our babies, and then we will complain later when they become addicted to it. So please, and this is not Dr. Baby recommendation. This is a World Health Organization recommendation. You can check it out. So anything I say, feel free to Google it and check it out for yourself. So no screen time, no TV for the baby. Baby should be with you, play with you, give them toys. There are toys that children can play with. There are toys that are also sound and lights kind of toys. So when baby press something, baby see the light or hear a sound, that is still okay, but not the TV, not the screen, because baby cannot interact with that. So cause and effect toys is better rather than the screen at all. And even for a 3 months old, the rattle, that's what the 3 months old baby need. Put the rattle in their hand, let them bang it, let them know how to transfer things. So there are toys for each age group. If you Google that, you also see that if you are on our Facebook group, we have that list there as well. So buy age appropriate toys, play with the baby, let the baby learn to interact with that, not with the TV. I hope that is clear. All right. Another Facebook is that maybe sometimes stretch himself while eating. Please always start with the age of your baby. Yeah? All these babies stretching. There's something wrong with baby stretching. All right. Nwokoro is giving Piriton. I don't recommend giving Piriton to children if a doctor has not prescribed it. Please don't. don't. It's a very dangerous drug that babies can react to. And some of you overdose them. So don't even give it to babies at all. If your doctor prescribe, yes. If your doctor is not taking responsibility to prescribe it, don't. Piriton is not something you self-medicate on. It is a prescription drug. You can give paracetamol, ibuprofen, your vitamins. Those are things you can do as a mom. Piriton is not a over-the-counter drug for parents to administer. It is a prescription drug. So please don't use it without prescription. Facebook user, my baby was having watery stool with blood stains, so we call it dysentery. So you went to the hospital, good, and they did a test, something was found, good, was placed on antibiotics, it's better, good. What could be the cause of the diarrhea? It is dysentery, and dysentery is usually due to bacterial infections. So there are different kinds of bacterial organisms. The commonest one we call it Shigella. There is also some other bacteria, Escherichia coli. I don't want to go into all those jargons, but Just know that it tends to be caused by bacterial infections. The fact that they do a test and they didn't find anything, that is not the proper test to do. What they need to do is a stool culture. And a stool culture results won't come out the same day. It's going to take like 3 to 7 days for the results to come out. So I'm not sure what test they did that they didn't find nothing. What they need to do if a child is having blood in the stool, apart from the stool analysis that confirmed that it is blood, it's a stool culture, and you're not going to get that. Sometimes it takes us to 7 days to get a stool culture result. And another reason why they may not get anything is that most of us Nigerians, we abuse antibiotics a lot. Some of you have started Uflagi even before you took your baby to the hospital, or you've given some other antibiotics. If you've given antibiotics before you go to the hospital, you have sterilized everything. The culture is going to come out negative. This is why you don't abuse antibiotics. So I'm not surprised they don't find anything, but that was still not. So again, this is another instance where we say we don't treat the lab result, we treat the child. So if I see blood in the stool of a child, even when I send the stool for culture in the laboratory, I'm going to start that child on antibiotics, because we all know that once there's blood in the stool, it's an infection going on. It could be a bacterial infection, it could even be some other kind of infection, but it is definitely not something like a virus. If it's just normal diarrhea with no blood, once there's blood, we're thinking other things, and antibiotics are going to be given even before we see the culture results. But when the culture comes out, it will confirm to us the specific bacteria and whether we need to change our antibiotics or not. But please don't abuse antibiotics, because we're not going to see anything in the culture if you have taken antibiotics before we take that blood sample. So that's the only reason that can happen. But sometimes it's possible for culture to come out negative, but it does not mean there was nothing. It just means that we couldn't get that bacteria culture. That is all. And what you need to do to avoid is hygiene, wash hands. Food should be cooked already. Didn't tell us the age of your baby. Always put the age of your baby in every question. If your baby is less than 6 months, should be on exclusive breastfeeding. Over 6 months, they can take complimentary feeds and breast milk, but cooking food thoroughly. Okay, fruits should be washed, vegetables should be washed, because that is where those germs come in, through water and food. Boiled drinking water, all this pure water they are selling in Nigeria, they are not pure. Most of them, they've taken them to the lab and they culture them, and they were all growing bacteria. So you can Google that. So even if you buy pure water, boil it, so that you are sure that it's clean, unless you're going to buy bottled distilled water. So otherwise, boil your water, or use what is called, all these water guard and all those chemical sterilization. Just do one of them. That will prevent those kind of scenario. All right, let's take one more question from Facebook and we go to Instagram. Good evening. My baby private part started having something like buns. Buns, is it B-U-R-N or B-U-N? I guess you meant B-U-R-N. Okay. And I do see some white juice discharge. Always start with the age of your babies. 8 months old. Okay. I change their wipes before I start noticing this, blah, blah, blah. For me, that sounds more like a nappy rash. So in that area, your baby is wearing nappy. So it could be the nappy, it could be the wipe, it could be a nappy rash, it could be any of those. My first go-to would be a nappy rash. All right. There's nothing wrong with watching discharge from private pipe. If it is white, there's something wrong. We worry about something that is yellow, that is green, that is foul smelling, that is itchy, and all that. But most of the common cause of rash in that area is the nappies. So change nappies frequently. Most of us, I know the economy is bad, there's Shapa and whatever, but please, babies' nappies have to be changed frequently. Once it is wet, we have to change it. We don't have to wait until it is dropping from the bum or there's poo inside. Once it is wet, we have to change it, because they are coming in contact with these wet nappies for a long time. It's not good for the skin. That is number one. Number two, use nappy cream, diaper cream that is a barrier type. So Vaseline, pseudo cream, you must use it every time you change the diaper. Please don't apply powder in the nappy area. As common as this is, people do it a lot. You know, people say put powder on top of the Vaseline, on top of, no, don't. No powder at all in the nappy area. Vaseline, pseudo cream, it has to be something that can create a barrier between the skin and the waste products in the diaper. So that's number two. All right. Number three, use, if you're going to use wipe, use the one that they wrote on it is hypoallergenic. It is not smelling, it does not have any chemical in it. It has to be what we call natural, like just water. If you're not sure, just use water. Just don't even bother. It's cheaper anyway. You don't have to buy now. The only good thing about wipes is that when you are outdoors, but when you are indoors, just use water and soap. Wash your hands, wash the baby's bum, use your Vaseline or pseudo cream and change the diaper. That's the best thing. But if you have to use wipe, always read that that is hypoallergenic. It is no perfume, nothing. It's just like water. And most of the time, you won't smell nothing out of it. That is the best one to use. So you can, if you think it's the wipe, you can change the wipe and see whether it solved the problem. But I really would go for something more like I will go more for nappy rash. But nappy rash is not difficult. Once you follow all those instructions, change the diaper frequently, use pseudo cream. You can still use pseudo cream to even treat your nappy rash. Use water, wash your hands, you'll be fine. But sometimes maybe have infection, like it look reddish kind of thing and all that, then that may be a fungal infection and you have to see us to treat that. So I hope that's helpful. Okay. Shinaza, you think it's reflux? I think I agree with you. All right, let's go back to Instagram. Idra is also ready for me today. I hope I'm pronouncing your name well. Era. Okay, what is the possible age for a baby to start sitting? Most babies start to bring out the first set of teeth from 5 to 7 months. So that is average. Some babies could be a little bit faster, some people could be a little bit later. Even up to 1 year, we're still not worried about it. But most babies, 5 to 7 months is the average time. All right, not too many questions on Instagram. Let's go back to Facebook. Somebody said, what can I do to make my 11-month-old baby hard weight? Feed the baby. That's all. Feed the baby. Baby is 3.2, current weight is 8.2. Birth weight is 3.2, current weight is 6.2. Not too bad. We are aiming for like 10 kilos, but 8 is still like the lower limits of normal. So make sure your baby eats well. Your baby should not be eating just pap. And even though you're adding crayfish and everything to that part, but that is not the only food. And baby should eat variety of food. All right. So I get worried when parents talk about babies on complementary feed and just mention one food, either something they bought in the stores or something they cook in the house, but it's just one food. No, so this baby should have variety. So if you have pap in the morning, there should be something else for the lunch, there should be something else for dinner, there should be snacks in between. So if you're on our Facebook, you're on a Facebook group, you go to our guide section, read, go through our guide too on complementary feeding. There are a lot of videos there for you to watch them, read the article, and apply those principles. So your 11 months old should be eating more than just pap with crayfish and whatever. No, your baby should eat other things. So you should eat every food, rice, yam, potato. But of course, you have to make sure that you are adding everything, just like what you're doing with the pap, which is quite good. You need to also do the same thing. So the other time it could be the potato, even with your butter or with palm oil, maybe a little bit of, you can cut some veggies into it. You can do that and then feed the baby. Another time you can try any of the local swallows, maybe it's amala or semovita with maybe ewedu or okra soup. try them with your fish, your Titus fish, your meat, your chicken. You shred it into it. So you have to give variety. And for in between the snacks, you maybe can have a boiled egg, can have any of the fruit, a banana, all those things in between. So it's not an easy task, but you have to do it. So that way your baby can have enough food. And I hope you're still breastfeeding along as well. Once you're doing the right thing, your baby will gain weight. I'm not too worried about your baby's weight, but we need to make sure it doesn't go down. It should be going up. So I'm sure you it will be fine. All right, time is going. Good, thank you. Confidence, thank you, Chinaza. Thank you, Chinaza. All right, I don't think I have any more questions. Okay. Time is also running out. But if you have any questions after I've gone off live, feel free to go to our Facebook group, Ask the Pediatricians Facebook group. You can post your questions there, and we'll try and answer your questions. Okay. Please be patient with us. Some of you will post your question, and you always ask my question will be answered in 2 hours. Remember that all of us are volunteers, so all of us go to work. So we try to work at different times. So be patient with us. And depending on the kind of question you ask, some questions even any of our members can answer it, but there are some questions that it has to be a pediatrician that has to answer if it has more complex layers and stuff. So please be patient with us, and we will get to your questions from Mondays to Saturday. Lots of people ask me, why can't I post on Sunday? But you can't post on Sundays. But Mondays to Saturday, we will be there to answer your question. Okay, Naomi saying my nephew of 5 years old lost a tooth for over a year. Over a year. Okay, you have to see a dentist. Tell them to take your nephew to see the dentist. It's not something to worry about, but usually after 1 year, the dentist expects it to come up. So if it's not coming up, the dentist has a way to do an X-ray, and they will see whether the tooth is there and it's about to come out, or whether there's anything blocking it, so they know what to do really. So I'll recommend getting to see a dentist for a check. Normally the dentists want to see our babies every 6 months anyway, so please remember that we should be taking, I know it's not a common thing for those of us in Nigeria especially, so I think the dentists want me to remind you, once your baby is 1 year old, they want you to come to the hospital to see them every 6 months for regular checks, just like any other regular checks. Okay, your body is also saying thank you. All right, I guess I don't have any more questions, so it's a good day today. Some other days I'm always struggling to catch up with all the questions I have, but thank you so much. Like I said, if you have any questions beyond ATP Live Hour, you can go to our Facebook group and post your questions there. We'll try and answer them. If you want to watch this video again, it will be available permanently on whichever platform you're watching right now, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We don't delete it. So feel free to watch past videos. If you want to read about any particular topic, feel free to go to our website, www.askthepediatricians.com. I think you can see all my back for those who can see me, but for those who can see me, but you can see Ask the Pediatrician, so it's www.askthepediatricians.com. And then if you want to listen to some of my podcast teachings as well, it's available on Ask Dr. Bemi ATP podcast. Most of the podcast platforms have it. Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, all of them, you can get it there. So we are here committed to making sure we empower you with the right information to raise healthy children, and so that none of our children will die. So that's our vision and our mission on ATP. We are committed to the health and the welfare of your children, our children. Okay. Final question. Do neonates need any drugs after birth? The simple answer is no. Your babies do not need any drugs that we give by mouth. Okay. Your babies, of course, will need immunizations like BCG, hepatitis B, and oral polio is given at birth. Your baby will get injection vitamin K. Most of those ones is not you that have to give it. We the health professionals will give it, but your baby does not need to go home with any drugs. And please don't go and create what I call Ajogba syndrome, okay? Ajogba, so those of you who are Yoruba, you know what I'm talking about. So it's a basin, a small basin. I grew up with that. Like when the baby is born, mothers have a small basin full of drugs. Like I have a picture of one on my Facebook group. There's paracetamol, there's nospemine, there's prep water, there's vitamin C, there's Abidec. I hope I'm not doing advertisement for all those drugs. And they put all these things, and immediately the baby is at a bath. Then they just go around pumping the baby's tummy with all those like 5, 10 different drugs. Some people even had the agbo, they've already bought agbo again on top. Please, please, I'm begging you, I'm leaning down to beg you. Your child does not need any of those things. So don't give. All right. The only thing your baby needs is breast milk. Okay. Breast milk. Okay. So there's no normal drug. Drug is never normal. All right. Drugs are not normal. Drugs are not meant to be given routinely to anyone. Okay. So even the so-called vitamin supplements, we prefer you eat them. Eat your fruits, eat your banana, eat your apple, you will get your vitamins from that. Eat your veggies, you will get all your vitamins from that. So the only time I say, okay, fine, some mother will maybe doesn't eat fruit, doesn't eat veggies. So sometimes we give you some of this supplement because we're trying to choose between the two devils. Like if the child will not eat, fruits, or we can't trust the mothers to give, all those things. Then we say, okay, give them vitamins, give them this. So at least we are sure that they are getting those ones, because micronutrient deficiency is also a problem. But otherwise, we shouldn't be giving any drugs to anybody who is healthy, who is normal. They don't need drugs. I think that is the point I'm trying to make. So for your newborn baby, your baby just needs breast milk. So the baby was healthy, but the father insisted. It's not the father's responsibility to insist on drugs being given to babies. I get a lot of questions about daddies insisting. I hope the daddies are listening to me. Please don't insist on what is not normal. And what I normally tell my first time moms and moms, just tell them pediatrician said your baby does not need it. And if they are fighting with you, don't fight with them. Bring them to the pediatrician. Let's have that conversation with them. So like the grandmothers as well. If your grandmothers, the mother-in-laws, the baby's grandmother, if they're disturbing you, don't fight with them. Bring them to the pediatrician. Just tell them to ask us directly. Then we can convince them better than you will convince them. So that's what you need to do. So tell daddy's baby's daddy that your baby does not need any drug. The pediatrician says your baby does not need any drug. The baby is healthy. The baby is fine. So the father should spend that money to buy good quality food for you, the mom. Should cook it for you so you will eat well, and then you will breastfeed the baby. That's all. That's what the baby daddy needs to do to support you. Spend the money to buy food for the mom. Let the mom eat well, drink a lot of water, and breastfeed. That's all the baby needs for 6 months. Breast milk only, even made, customized, nothing else necessary. So it's so easy. So fuel subsidy doesn't affect breastfeeding. This and that. God is so good that our babies will survive no matter the economy they are born into, because they don't need their food dependent on the economy. Even if you don't eat, you will see breastfeed. If you drink water, but at least if you eat, you will feel better, while you're breastfeeding. Anyway, that's just a joke. But the point is that your baby does not need you spending any extra money beyond buying your diapers and the other stuff. The milk is from you and no drugs needed. So that is all. All right. So thank you so much, everyone. It's a pleasure to always be here every Monday and taking ATP Live and answering your questions live. But this is just a taster. If you want to, if you have more questions, I know you do. Feel free to post in our Facebook group Mondays to Saturdays, and I'll be there to myself and my colleagues will be there to answer your questions. On Thursdays, I do teachings, ATP Hour on various topics. I hope you tune in, or you can listen on the podcast or watch it on YouTube or on Fresh Waves Radio as well. An important topic. And if you have a topic that you think, oh, I would like Dr. Bemi to talk about this topic, feel free to send me an email, askthepediatricians@gmail.com, and I'll try and address the topic. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. And it is bye. Bye. I have to tune that today. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye, Instagram family. Bye, everyone. I'll see you on Thursday by God's grace. Bye.